G'day and welcome to the Hunting Connection podcast. My name is Zach Williams and I am your host. Here we'll connect you with hunters, fishers and outdoor enthusiasts from around the globe. This podcast will share hunting and fishing stories including past experiences and tackle the tough hunting stereotypes our community faces. We hope to be a positive influence to those outside the community while also having a laugh along the way. Hope you enjoy the podcast. G'day and welcome to another episode of Hunting Connection podcast. On today's episode, we have another American on, which is always great. I love chatting to Americans, but it's just so hard to work it out with the time differences at times. But we've got Trent from Thumpers Outdoors. How you going, mate?
Good, man. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. Good. You've gotten up early to join us here today, so I really appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, no problem. I was up at 5 o'clock this morning, so it's just after 6:30 here, probably, I don't know, 6:45. I can't see the clock on my phone right now, so.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, looks nice and light there. At 6 o'clock in Australian time at the moment, it's pretty dark. Doesn't start getting light till, 7, just after 7.
Yeah, it's beautiful this morning, actually. It's been super hot here lately in the mid-90s in the mornings, and it's just above 80, like 82. It's a little cool this morning. It's kind of nice out.
So, yeah, I think that's like 30, mid-30s-ish. Yeah, about 30 degrees Celsius maybe. I'm not too great with the conversions. I know,
Me either.
I know about 45 degrees is about 110 Fahrenheit, so...
Okay. Yeah, we'll just go with I trust you.
Yeah.
I'll go with what you said.
The conversions are so hard when it comes to that sort of thing. But whereabouts are you from, Trent?
So I'm from Central Illinois. I'm the Midwest. If you're familiar with U.S. deer hunting at all, it's one of like the top 5 whitetail states in the country. I sure don't make it look that way, but it is a pretty good state for whitetail. So kind of the corn belt, man. I know the county that I live in Illinois, we had the most expensive ag land in the country for like 3 years straight. So I'm kind of in the heart of agriculture.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I was gonna say right in the heart of whitetail country there. So that's awesome to hear. What do you do for work, man?
I do social media for a living. Social media marketing. I own a little archery shop. So kind of everything that can get me in the outdoors hunting and archery related. And that's just a product of a lot of time of work and suffering, to be really honest with you. Like there's a lot of times where I'm waking up in the morning and it was like, how am I going to pay bills? How am I going to feed myself? I went through, for lack of a better term, a lot of hell to get where I'm at. I'm very proud of that. And I mean, I'm still not, don't get that twisted. I'm still by no means wealthy. I don't know that I'll ever make it wealthy doing this, but I'm at least self-sufficient and supporting myself doing what I love.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You're doing what you love. So that's what counts and what matters. So what type of content are you doing for your social media stuff for people that don't know?
So I do primarily my shtick, for lack of a better term, is going to be broadhead testing is my biggest thing. Like a lot of guys really like my broadhead testing. And I think it's because I kind of do it in a no nonsensical way and I'm not wasting time. Most of my broadhead test videos are 3 minutes or less. Your time is valuable. I'm not going to waste it with a bunch of fluffed up BS. Like I just kind of do it and run through it and this is what it is. But I do product reviews as well, whether it be archery related stuff or saddle hunting now is very popular. And that's something I've been doing for the past 4.5 years. So I do saddle gear and then I do hunting content as well. So I film all my own hunts. I post that stuff. Some of my buddies film their hunts. I post stuff up for them. So
yeah, awesome.
A little of everything, like just back to the whole anything archery and bow hunting related.
And what's your tests for broadheads? What type of things are you doing to show the durability and sharpness and the flight and that of broadheads?
Yeah, so my tests have changed significantly over the years, and they kind of they're kind of always changing, or I'm always looking to make them better. So the way I approach testing is right off the bat, you cannot replicate an animal. No matter what you do, you cannot replicate a live animal. There's too many variables there that you can't put into any sort of testing. So what I try to do is build a test where I eliminate variables, and you can compare broadhead A to broadhead B versus, what'll it do to an animal? It's like, well, this one did this one did this, to help you find something that's going to be better out in the woods. Right now, my testing consists of pulling a broadhead out of the package and testing the sharpness. I want to see how sharp it is right out of the pack. And a lot of that's because most guys here, I know this is different for you guys because I've had this conversation, but a lot of guys here will not sharpen their own broadheads. They'll pull them out of the package, they'll screw them all, and they'll take them in the woods.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure they're taking a sharp head in the woods. The next thing I do is shoot it into ballistics gel. And there I'm not looking for penetration. I'm looking for a wound channel. I just want to see what kind of cut it's going to make in the gel. And one thing I've learned is the gel is not the best medium to really see that, because it reacts much differently than it's going to react, obviously, inside of an animal. But there's times where you'll get a broadhead that'll cut a hole in the gel, and just because of the nature, it'll close that wound channel up, and it'll look like it's done a lot less than it really has. So I want to find a different medium to test that, but I don't think there's a better one that exists right now, or at least I don't know about it. Yeah. Then after the ballistics gel, I usually shoot a hard quartering away shot because I want to see if I can get the broadhead to skip and deflect. And then after that, I shoot it through some 28 gauge aluminum, which isn't a super heavy duty metal, but to me, it replicates the rib bones of a whitetail pretty well. A lot of people give the rib bones of a whitetail too much credit. They're not that tough. You can take a rib bone from whitetail and break it in your hands. It doesn't take that much pressure, that much poundage. And when I'm testing, I'm trying to make sure the broadhead's going to perform in proper standards. Not if you shoot something, if you want to pin something in the shoulder, you shouldn't be doing that anyways. You know what I mean? So I get a lot of guys that are like, well, it's not that tough, it's not that durable. And I say, yeah, I get that, but I'm not trying to test things for shooting. I'm not shooting cow femurs. I'm not shooting 2x4s. I'm not going to shoot things that you're not supposed to be shooting anyways. I want to make sure a broadhead performs.
There's lots of guys that do that.
And it makes for good viewership. Like, it makes for good content because it's cool to see. Oh, my broadhead blew up a cow femur, or this one, it's cool to see. I get it. But I'm not necessarily doing it just to make a spectacle. I want to give real information. So I shoot the 28 gauge, and then I kind of just do an overview of what I saw in the testing and how I interpret that data. And that's my whole video. And I cram all that into, 3 minutes or less. And so people can run through, go down a rabbit hole per se and run through 20 broadhead reviews in an hour, and it's not that big a deal.
What type of poundage are you running? Are you changing poundage on at times, or just the same bows, same poundage?
Yep, same bow, same poundage, 2870. That's just my stats, and I think that's kind of run of the mill average. Yeah, just across everything. I think most guys are 2870.
Yeah, I'm 28 and a half and 70 pounds. So yeah, very, very similar.
Exactly. So I get some guys asking about lower poundage and stuff like that. And I'm fortunate that I can answer questions and kind of direct advice. And that's just based on my knowledge of broadhead design and what in a low poundage, low energy scenario, you want penetration. Well, the obvious answer for that is a cut on contact 2-blade broadhead.
Yep.
It's going to out-penetrate anything else out there. So, stuff like that's pretty simple. And if I were to figure out a way, I could probably do a penetration comparison with ballistics gel because it is an equal medium all the way through. I don't like doing that because then people take that and they equate it to an animal.
Yeah.
And it's not the same thing. And no matter how much I say it in any of my videos, there's always somebody that's like, well, that's nothing like a real animal. Yes, I know. That's not the point. That's not the point at all. I get that on TikTok a lot. TikTok's my big platform, and I put broadhead tests on there, and guys are like, well, When I'm shooting deer with steel plates, I'll care. I'm like, that's not the point, man. Like, I say that I've said it a bunch. It's not the point.
Are you a speed guy or an FOC guy? What type of weights are you running?
I'm neither. So this is the first year I've shot over 270 feet a second in probably the last 10 years. And it's just because the bow that I like this year is a pretty fast bow. I've gotten to the point where I just build arrows because I want to build arrows. I don't care too much about what the weight is or what the FOC is or what the speed is, or I just build them because I feel like it. I went down all of those rabbit holes. 3 years ago, I shot a 23.4% FOC arrow at 560 something grains, and I killed animals with it and it performed great. And then the following year, I built like a 500 grain arrow with 11% FOC and I killed animals with it and it performed great. I feel very strongly with modern equipment, that stuff matters a lot less.
Yeah.
If you're a trad guy, if you're shooting a really old bow, yeah, I think you need to be more particular about your arrow weight and your FOC and stuff like that. But if you're shooting any level of modern compound, I just don't think it's that important.
Yeah, fully understand. I think I'm running about 580-ish total arrow weight. What grain heads are you mainly testing, or testing a bit of everything?
Yeah, so I'll test everything. 100 grain is the most popular around here. So that tends to be what most manufacturers make. So most everything ends up with 100 grain. And I shoot 100 grains just so I have a plethora of broadheads that I can take in the woods and try to shoot animals with.
Yeah.
But I test everything. I mean, I just posted Vantage Point Archery, which is a company not far from me. Yep. I just posted one of their tests with the 200 grain Omega. I posted Crimson Talon has a cleaver broadhead. It's 150 grains. I just posted that one. So I'll test anything. And the nice thing about the nature of what I do is, because of the way I test, I'm shooting things close up. I don't need to shoot things at 80 yards or 100 yards, or I don't need to shoot those way long shots. So I shoot everything close up, so I can get away with like the 200 grain and 150 grain, even though my broadheads, like my setup's not tuned and set up for that. And it's probably under spining me quite a bit to put that much weight up front. I can still do it and get away with it and test it, and it's not a problem. You did ask about accuracy testing a little bit. I don't at all. And I don't anymore. I used to. All my videos used to start with me shooting a balloon. And the reason I don't is because I've tested so many broadheads at this point and realized that if your bow is tuned and that broadhead spins true, that's the other end of it. It's got to be a good broadhead that spins properly. You'll shoot right where you want to. You'll shoot with field points. I've never tested a broadhead that doesn't shoot with field points, provided those other two things were true ahead of time.
Yeah, that's a good thing to work out, that's for sure. Yeah, so 125 grain, I would say, would be probably one of the most popular weights over here. And yeah, I wouldn't say 100 grain's a very popular grain. It's, 125, 150, 180, 200, But I equate that to, because we run into a plethora of game over here. It's not just like you're going out, you're like, I'm just going for whitetail. Over here, you could be shooting a rabbit, or you could be shooting a fallow deer, or a red deer, or a feral goat, or a pig. So you want something that covers all bases.
Well, I've also figured out, just by nature, Australian hunters are a lot less lazy than American hunters. It's true. Yeah. And I mean, it's 100% true, because like I said, for us, I test that out of package sharpness because most guys won't sharpen your broadheads. I had an Australian company send me some heads, and when I got them, they were dull. And I reached out to the company, and this has been a long time ago, so I do not remember the company, but I remember this conversation. I reached out and I was like, hey man, these are like really dull. And he's like, well, sharpen them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, I get that, but like, that's not going to fly in America, because the whole premise was they wanted to break into the US market.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not going to fly here, because people here are lazy. They want to open a pack, screw them on. And that's why a lot of people ask me about accuracy, man. I get a lot of questions about accuracy. and how they fly, because most guys want to open a pack, screw them on, and take them out in the woods. They don't want to tune their bow. They don't want to practice. They don't want to spend the time to get it right. And that frustrates the crap out of me. We're taking an animal. Well, we're taking an animal's life. That should be significant and important. And that should be something you're willing to put time in to make sure you're doing right.
Yeah, 100% agree. 100%
yeah,
agree.
So when you get guys that are just like, I just want to screw it on and take it to the woods, or around me, it's really popular to pull your bow out a weekend before season starts and shoot one arrow at 20 yards and call it a day. And then inevitably, the first weekend they go out to hunt, I'm going to see them and they're going to tell me that their bow is messed up because they just missed the buck of a lifetime at 25 yards and the bow's got to be messed up. No, man, you just didn't shoot it all in the off season.
So have you got a favorite head that you run while you're out, say hunting, or you chopping and changing a fair bit, or?
Yeah. So I don't really have a favorite broadhead. I get that question a lot. Like, what's the best broadhead? What's your favorite broadhead? And I don't have one, because another part of something my testing has taught me is there's a ton of really good options that'll do what they're supposed to if you do your part.
Yeah. So
for me, I want to try them all. Like, if it's good, I want to try it. I want to see what it does on animals. I can't, unfortunately, shoot animals year round. Like, I don't have that ability here. So I want to take every broadhead and every opportunity I can to shoot as many animals as I can to see what they do.
Yeah. No, that's understandable.
So my quiver is usually a different broadhead on every arrow. Like, I'm always changing, always playing around.
Do you have a go-to style, whether it's expandable, fixed blade?
I'm typically a fixed blade guy. Yeah. And that's not that I have any hate for expandables. I really don't. Matter of fact, True Blue Broadheads, Australian company, for the longest time, they were the sharpest broadhead that I ever tested, and they're mechanicals. And I've shot deer with them. They're freaking great broadheads.
Yeah.
The guys over there are great too. But I'm typically a fixed blade guy. I honestly think part of it's because of their underdogs. Like, a fixed blade doesn't get as much love as a mechanical because they just don't look as cool.
Yeah. No, that's it.
So, I think part of it's that. And then I like the aspect of no failure. Unless it's going to fall apart going through the animal, it's not going to fail. And I don't shoot broadheads that are that junky anyways.
Yeah.
And the back end, the other end of that is, for me, a lot of my hunting scenarios are heavy brush, dense, thick areas where it's not out of the realm of possibility that I might, hit a small twig or hit some leaves shooting at an animal. Or if I'm hunting off the ground, I might have to shoot through some grass. Well, a fixed blade broadhead is going to give me a higher opportunity to go through that and continue to get to my path versus a mechanical that's going to open in flight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Australians tend to be very fixed blade orientated. They love their fixed blades. Like, you look at the different companies over here, most of them are fixed blades. Whether it's Northern Broadheads, Van Diemen Broadheads, Cayuga, Ozcart, the list goes on and on. Alien Archery, all of these guys, they all have fixed blades, single bevel or whatever, and they, all perform really well for what they're made to because they have that year-round testing.
Right. Well, and that's kind of what drew me to True Blue initially, is they were an Australian company that was mechanical. I was like, oh, that's different.
Yeah.
So I shocked by that, and I got interested in them. And then the idea that at the time I was shooting a 200 grain head, so I could take the two and build me a really big, awesome mechanical broadhead. That was awesome. That was a lot of fun. I actually just tested Northern Broadhead's Evo, and I've got a Northern Broadhead's wide cut test coming out. And the Evo really, really impressed me. I was thoroughly impressed with how well the Evo did. The wide cut did really well as well, just not as good as the Evo.
Have you tested out Van Diemen broadheads?
No. So my experience with the Australian market is basically True Blue and Northern, and then that company that sent me those broadheads, I actually never got around to testing. I don't even know if they're around anymore.
Yeah, there's been a few here, there. But yeah, Van Diemen, I'd love to see your reaction on them. I'll get the owner of them to message you and see what you can work out. I'd love to hear your review on them. That's what I'm running. I personally think they're a great head. I've taken lots of game with them and have had good mates take lots of different game with them. Something I'm interested to jump into, though, that you mentioned is tree saddles. So tree stand hunting, blind hunting, saddle hunting is not a thing here in Australia. There would be maybe a dozen people across Australia that do it. But saddle hunting is something, like one of my main fallow blocks is thick Australian bush, gum trees, coming into our ruts, like, end of March, start of April, before we have any wet weather. So it's just crunchy. It's walking on cornflakes. Tree stands and then saddles is something that I've been really, really looking into. But, we're paying 2.5 times more for a tree stand or a saddle setup than you guys are over there. So that's, getting it over here, you're looking at, a $500 setup over there, and it's $1,500, $2,000 here almost,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so for a situation like you're describing, I'd imagine it would be fantastic. The nice thing about a saddle is it's super lightweight. So if you have some serious walking to do, that's not a big deal. It packs down well. It goes in well. Especially during rut, I'd imagine you can probably do some calling and get them to come to you. So you could set up in a tree and do some calling and get them to come in and check you out. And another advantage you're going to have is the animals where you're hunting are not used to being hunted out of an elevated position.
No.
So you're throwing something completely new at them. That could be a very, very lethal tactic. You may end up with animals that you typically wouldn't be able to get in on the ground.
Yeah, that's one thing that I thought, it would be a game changer over here, because everyone hunts from the ground. Everyone's walking around hunting, or, sitting off a trail hunting, or water source, food source, calling. So I definitely thought that saddle hunting would be a game changer. Is there any particular brands that you're running that you like? What do you think are the steps worth it? Because you see all these different attachments and.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of tethered. A lot of my companies that I am involved with, period, just at all, have to do with the guys that run them. Like, I'm not beholden to any sponsors or anything like that. I don't owe anybody anything. If I'm using a product, it's because I like the product, I think it's good, and I like the people behind the product. If I don't like the people behind the product, I won't touch it. I don't care if it's the best thing in the world. So for me, tethered is really tough to beat. They're all super good dudes. That company was truly born from a bunch of guys that love to hunt and made a go at their dream and are making a really solid go at it. And I have a deep appreciation for that. As far as the Stetsons,
you need to get them to start sending gear over to Australia, to some of the shops.
Australia,
because I reckon it will do well over here if they could start marketing it right.
If I could always reach out to them and talk to them and see if they've thought about that market.
I reckon it could be. Especially with fallow deer and sambar deer, even rooster and axis or chital deer, it would be or the hog deer, because you got a ballad over there, and most people build like a stand to take out, like a ladder stand with wheels and that. A saddle setup would be a game changer on those deer, I reckon. Well, all deer here, but yeah, it'd be a market for them to open up into for sure.
Interesting. I mean, I'll reach out and say something to them. I don't know that I've ever really thought about it. I'd never thought about it. I don't know what your hunting situation is over there, other than most guys hunt off the ground.
Yeah, that's it. But how high are you hunting off the ground from a saddle setup?
So my particular setup, I do something called one sticking. So that allows me to get basically as high as I could possibly want, up to, we'll say, 35 feet.
Okay.
So with the one stick versus multiple sticks, you hang them and you climb. With a one stick, you climb, then you hang from the tree and move the stick up ahead of you. So you're continuing to basically, almost like a climber stand.
Yeah.
Same principle. And then when I get out of the tree, I have rappel rope. So just like you see in the action movies where they're jumping down the building, that's exactly how I get out of the tree.
Just abseiling.
It's probably, yep, exactly. And it's probably the most fun like I've ever had hunting other than actually hunting. If it's a bad hunt, I always have getting out of the tree to look forward to. So, but yeah, that whole system weighs just shy of 10 pounds. And I could cut that weight probably 3.5 pounds if I really wanted to go minimalist, but I like being comfortable, so I'm okay with carrying the extra weight.
That's awesome. What about like shooting from a tree stand or saddle? What type of compensation are you doing? Or is it all through your rangefinder?
So a lot of it is through a rangefinder anymore. Modern rangefinders have a lot of angle compensation. I don't know what terrain is like where you guys are at, but if you ever have anything where you're up above the animal shooting down at them, or whether it be for a crevice or if you stalked up around them, very similar to that.
Yep.
You're aiming a little lower just to compensate for the trajectory of the arrow. I mean, it's identical. Basically, shooting from any elevated or decline position is the same exact way. You're aim a little low to compensate for the trajectory, and you're good to go.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I definitely think that would be a game changer over here, and it's just something that I've been interested in. I know one of my mates and past guests, he's just got a climber stand, but one thing he didn't take into account is our barks are quite slippery compared to your trees over there. So he's had some issues with the climbing stand just from the trees being so so slippery.
Slick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a cool thing for you guys, like you can maximize a saddle setup if you have somewhere that you can hunt and you can screw steps into a tree or build steps onto a tree or leave steps. I mean, you can maximize a saddle setup where you put up a ladder and put up your platform, and then all you have to carry in is your saddle, and you're talking 3 pounds.
Yeah.
So for me, we can't screw into trees. I don't leave my stuff on public land here because it comes up missing. I carry my whole setup in and out every time. But if you can leave stuff, I mean, you can truly maximize what a saddle can do.
Yeah, so here in South Australia, it's only private land hunting. So if your property owner is fine with you doing that, you've got no limits on that. Like you can build a tree stand or whatever, leave it up 365 days, so there's no real limitations on that type of thing. And I don't think there's really any laws on public land in the States that you can hunt on public land when it comes to tree saddles and tree stands, because it's just not a common thing here. So,
right. Yeah, for us, it's we go as far as I'm not allowed to trim brush out of trees or anything to make shooting lanes here. Yep. So that's again kind of back to the fixed blade thing. That's why I like fixed blades, because I can't cut brush out of the way to make a clear shooting lane. I try to get it as clear as possible, but sometimes you can't see that stick that's the size of a toothpick.
Are you all public land hunting there, or?
Yeah, so for me, I'd say it's 99% public land. Last year, I did pick up a little private land piece, but it's only 60 acres total. Only 10 acres of that is really huntable, and there's a guy and his son that hunt on it. So I, for the most part, just kind of let them hunt it.
Yeah.
He's got a kid out there. It's much more important for me to have his child out there and get him involved and love the outdoors than it is for me to hunt a piece of private ground. So I hunt pretty much exclusively public. I do have a buddy that's got some private ground about 4 hours south of me this year that I'm going to go join him on, and we're going to hit it and some public ground around it and stuff like that. But for the most part, yeah, public.
Yeah, sweet. So what other game apart from whitetail do you have there?
For us here in Illinois, I've got whitetail and then small game.
Yeah.
The next most popular thing to hunt probably is going to be ducks. Waterfowl is probably the next most popular thing in the state. And then you've got your small game, your squirrels and your rabbits, pheasants, quail, so game birds. That's all around here. Now, if you go, the United States as a whole has got a lot of different options. If you go down south, there's wild hogs, which are a blast. I've shot some hogs. If you go west, you can get into black bear and elk and moose. And, if you go up to Alaska, then you can get into caribou and you can get into grizzly bear. And so there's a lot of options all over the country. I'm pretty fortunate. This year I got to go kill a black bear in Montana. And then I'll do my whitetail hunting here. Another thing that's kind of interesting is if you go down south to like Texas, you'll get into fallow, you'll get into axis, you can get into some African game, and those animals have been in. Aoudad, exactly.
I got my Aoudad up there from Texas, and I got my whitetail up there from Mexico. So yeah, I've checked out Texas. There's some cool animals down there. You got Sika, you got Reds, you got Pierre Davids, you've got all sorts.
Well, and those animals have been imported for so long that they're pretty much native at this point.
Yeah.
If I remember right, Axis and fallow are now, they're not considered native necessarily, but they are considered a free roaming game species because there's so many of them now.
Yeah, I've heard different stories about how far they're roaming through, like the Texas high country and stuff like that. Hill country, sorry. It's pretty crazy down there, but awesome. It's awesome hunting.
Oh yeah, I'm supposed to go down to Texas at some point this year also and shoot a bison. I've got a guy that's got a 2,500 acre low fence ranch down there, and he's got bison on it. He's got zebra, and he's got all kinds of.
That's sweet.
It's like hunting in a zoo almost, which feels really weird. But there's still, 2,500 acres isn't small.
No,
they're still wild animals.
That definitely is. So let's jump back a little bit. How did you get into hunting?
My story is kind of interesting, I think. I've talked to a lot of people about this because it's a fun subject, and I don't get a lot of my similar story. My hunting story started 13 years old, Sunday morning, bowl of cereal in my lap, flipping through TV channels, looking for cartoons. And I came on a channel where there's a deer on the screen, and nature's always kind of been interesting to me. So I thought it was like a nature documentary. I'm like, oh, cool, I'll watch this. Like, I can do this while I'm eating breakfast. And then they shoot the deer, and the deer runs off and dies. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Yeah, so it was an episode of a TV show called The Fitzgeralds. They're not super popular anymore, unfortunately, but just a family hunting show. They shot the deer, they got out of the stand, they were all excited and happy. I'm like, that looks like a blast. I went in my parents' bedroom, was like, I want a bow for Christmas. I want to start bow hunting. And that's my story. I saw it on TV and was like, yep, I have to try that. Nobody in my family bow hunted. Nobody was a deer hunter. It's not a generational thing passed down. Once I got a bow in my hand, it became an obsession. I had to be good at it. Like, I had to figure it out. I had to learn. And then once I kind of figured it out and learned, then I was like, I have to do this for a living.
That's sweet.
So I looked into a TV show. I was 16. $100,000 for 6 months to air a TV show at the time. Not as a 16-year-old. Definitely not a rich guy. So then I turned to YouTube, and at 16, I had my first YouTube channel. And then it's kind of progressed. I've got the channel that I'm on now has been up for 11 years, and I wish I would have taken it very seriously all of those 11 years. I didn't, young guy, 18, 19-year-old guy running around. YouTube videos are not what you're thinking about. There's some other things going on. So that's kind of my story, though, is it's just I found it when I was young. One thing that kind of plays into that is, as a young guy, I struggled a lot with mental health. I have clinical depression. Like, my brain is not wired properly. And at 13 years old, I was going through a lot of stuff and had no idea what was going on. I'm a 13-year-old kid, and that's nothing begrudgingly to my parents. I'm sure, how do you know when it's a 13-year-old kid and they don't communicate? You can't know. So going through all that stuff, finding archery was kind of my out. It was my outlet to get away from that and to focus on something else. And I really think that's a big factor of me falling in love with it so deeply.
Yeah, it's that seems to be a common subject on this podcast, is how getting outdoors, helps people who are battling with mental health issues. The podcast that I just recorded just before we jumped on, he had a very similar thing, just saying how it helps his mental health quite a bit. So yeah, it's awesome to hear. How long did it take you to get your first animal with a bow when you first started kicking over?
6 years.
6 years? Wow.
6 years. Yeah. The bow my parents bought me, they had no idea. It was just a Walmart bow. So at 13 years old, I was shooting a 30-inch draw at 70 pounds. I can tell you, I shoot a 28-inch draw now at 70 pounds at 30 years old. At 13, I was probably 5'4", 5'2". Like I was a little dude, maybe 110 pounds soaking wet. I had no reason to be shooting 30 inches or 70 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably took me a month and a half of trying to draw that bow every single night before I could actually get it back the first time. So, having no idea. And then I progressively learned over time. I realized that I got to be doing something wrong. I mean, I'm talking the first time I went hunting, I had a prong rest with no sights. I was shooting fingers. I had old aluminum arrows that a guy my dad worked with gave him to give me. They were all bent. I had different broadheads on there. Like I had no idea what I was doing. So I realized that like I got to be doing something wrong. So I got everything I could get my hands on, every video I could watch, every article I could read, progressively learned how to tune a bow, how to adjust settings. And it took me 6 years to really get the bow dialed in where I was accurate enough to hunt and to learn how to hunt properly to get an animal in front of me. And then
that's awesome.
On that sixth year, yeah, I capitalized. I shot a doe. She ran 50 yards. I made a really good shot on her. At that point, it was definitely game over. Up to that point, it was just like I'm obsessed with the gear and shooting. Once I shot that first deer, it was an addiction that I'll never get rid of.
And how did you go with the butchering, skinning side of things with that first deer, not having any background before that?
Struggling. I found it. I took it over to my grandparents' house. They lived down the road. At that time, I had some private ground to hunt, and we hung it in a tree. And my dad and myself took probably 7.5 hours, if I had to guess, six to 7.5 hours to butcher this deer and kind of really figure it out. Because I had I'm going inside and getting on my grandparents' computer and looking up YouTube videos. Because back then YouTube was the Wild West and you could put anything up.
Yeah, we were.
It's like how to butcher a deer. And so I'm watching 5 minutes of this video and running outside and doing it and talking to my dad through it. And yeah, so it was a long process. Now it does not take me nearly as long, but I gritted my teeth and figured it out. And that's kind of my entire story with archery and hunting is grit your teeth and figure it out.
So nowadays, do you only bow hunt or do you rifle hunt as well and take advantage of all your different seasons across the states there?
So I'm primarily a bow hunter. Like for me to travel out of state and hunt, I have zero interest in taking a rifle.
Yeah.
Just doesn't do anything for me. I look at bow hunting as something to go out and do and enjoy. And if I never shoot an animal, I still love every minute of it. And it's the challenge. And there's so much more to bow hunting. I do still rifle hunt though. In Illinois, we just got straight wall cartridge rifles. We can't use a standard rifle cartridge.
Yeah.
So, and then because I'm on public land, we have to draw tags.
Yeah.
So if I don't draw a gun tag, that's fine. That just means I get a few days of break during bow season because I hunt a lot and I hunt hard. So this year I drew gun tags, and usually when I draw gun tags, me and a buddy or a couple buddies go together. So we'll go out and we'll have basically a guys' weekend where we take the guns out and we hunt. And to me, it's a grocery getter. To me, that's like going to Walmart and buying some beef. Yeah. That's how I look at a gun.
And what type of rifle are you running?
So I actually just bought a new rifle 2 days ago. It's a CVA Scout. It's a single shot rifle because that's a requirement for Illinois. And then it's a 350 Legend. It's a straight wall cartridge, which is again a requirement for Illinois. So that's what I'm running this year. It's all new to me, but I kind of did some research and 350 Legend checks all the boxes that I wanted. It's a 200-yard Nen rifle on deer size game. It doesn't have a ton of recoil, which I'm not recoil adverse. I usually shoot a muzzle loader. But if I don't have to shoot something that's going to beat me up, why would I?
Yeah, exactly.
And I've got a 4-16 by 44 scope laying around the house. I'll just throw it on there and that'll be what I take out in the woods.
Yeah, beautiful. So just compound bows or you play around with recurves and long bows too, or?
So compound is my number one, has been for a long time. And I've had a traditional bow, a recurve for probably 5 or 6 years now, and never taken it seriously. I have actually picked it up about a week and a half ago and started taking it seriously and really trying to learn how to shoot one. And that is, I shoot my recurve every single day. I don't shoot my compound every day. I could pick up my compound at any point and drop an arrow at 60 yards and feel confident taking out in the woods and shooting anything 40 it in.
Yeah.
So the compound to me is like, the trad guys love the term training wheels, but it kind of fits.
Yeah.
Because as long as your tuning's not messed up, as long as your bow's not changed, as long as you're keeping up with it regularly, if you're an experienced shooter, you can pick your compound up and, in 5 arrows be dropping dimes like you're used to.
Yeah.
You're not doing that with a recurve.
No.
Guys that shoot recurve for 40 years can maybe do that. Guys like me, no chance.
Yeah, I'm the same.
No
I'll get into it for a bit and then I'll just go straight back to the compound. It's I'm a compound cowboy, that's for sure.
Well, the time dedication is what's hard for me. I don't have a ton of free time, and like I said, I shoot every day, but that may be me going out and shooting 5 arrows.
Yeah.
But at least I went out and shot. So I'm really, really trying hard this year to get my effective range to 30 yards, and I want to take it out and shoot something. It's been a goal for a long, long time to shoot something with the traditional setup. I'm going to try to get it done this year.
Yeah, I really would love to get even a fallow doe or a spike with the trad gear. I reckon the only way that that's going to happen for me is getting into a tree stand or a saddle set up. I reckon that'd be my one, especially where I hunt and how thick it is. That's going to be the only way. I've taken a couple of goats with trad gear. I do a lot of bow fishing over summer here, so I swap between the recurve and the compound on that. So I've taken a fair few fish with it. But yeah, if I shoot a doe, I'll put the recurve down and be like, yep, that's it, that's me done.
And kind of give guys crap that are gun hunters. A gun hunter, I'm like, they shoot a 150-inch buck with a gun, and I'm like, that's cool. It doesn't do anything for me. They shoot a 150-inch buck with a bow, a compound. I'm like, that's sweet. But I kind of always make the joke that if it's a public lane 150-inch, you add 20 inches to the score because it's that much harder. And then if it's a traditional bow 150-inch, you add 40 inches because it's that much harder. So
yeah, no, I got into the real, I'm just bow hunting. I'm not rifle hunting, and then, I got a family, I got kids. I got more into the rifle hunting because I can pick up the rifle and go out, just due to not having that much time. But yeah, these days I'm like, yeah, I love all forms of hunting, whether it's, recurve, bow, if, picking up a spear and doing it Tim Wells style was legal over here, yeah. I'd be dabbling in that too.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, that's the way I look at it. Like I said, to me, gun hunting is grocery getting. That doesn't mean I don't love my time in the woods with it. And I get that there's some guys that's all they got. There's some guys that are busier than I am that we have a 7-day gun season. They've got those 7 days and that's all they can get.
Yeah. That's
more power to you, man. Get out in the woods. That's all I care about. I
let far more stuff walk when I have my rifle with me than when I have a bow. I see something with a bow, I'm going to go stalk in on it. But, with a rifle, it's just like, oh, no, I don't feel like taking that today. It's just nice watching them.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I am. Does are much more in trouble when I have a rifle in my hand than bucks are. An 8-pointer that maybe 110-inch, 120-inch buck with my bow, that's a dead deer. Like, I'm going to shoot it. With a rifle, I'm going to watch it walk by, like, let it go enjoy its life. But the first doe that comes out, as long as she doesn't have a fawn with her, game over. Yeah. Like I said, it's my grocery getter.
That's it. What would be, because you're relatively new getting into hunting, what 17-ish years, give or take?
Yeah, right around there.
So getting into hunting, mid-teens with no, real role models that hunted around you, what would be your top beginner tip for someone getting into hunting in their teenage years?
Don't give up. That's the biggest thing, man, because it's daunting. And the unfortunate, and I'm guilty of this what I'm about to cover too, but the reality is if you get on YouTube, most of the guys that are really putting out content that you're going to see have a $2,000 bow set up and they're shooting the highest end equipment. And, and I'm guilty of that too. I've got the super nice high end bow set up and all the nice equipment. but that's not necessary. And it's daunting. There's a lot of money in it, and I get a lot of guys that are new. They're like, I'd love to start bow hunting, but it's a rich man's sport. Like I am not rich, dude. You can there's a company called Sanlita Archery. They make a bow called the Dragon X8. It's $199 on Amazon.
Okay. Yep.
$200. The only thing you really need to replace in that whole setup is the arrows. The arrows in it aren't great. Most people are probably going to be too heavy poundage, too long draw length for that light of spine. But everything else is perfectly usable. So we'll say $260, you can be in the woods. 300 with broadheads. $260 you can be shooting.
Yeah, beautiful.
It doesn't have to be. And I mean, to take that a step further, go to a garage sale and pick up a bow for $50. There's options out there. And if you look at it and say it's too expensive and give up, you're never going to get to experience what an amazing experience it is. I mean, you're never going to get to see how awesome it is, and you're going to miss out on something super special.
Yeah, that's it. Going back onto that, getting into it's daunting, with all the gear. What would be your top 5 beginner items? So someone getting into it, what would be the top 5 things that you'd recommend them to go get, apart from a gun or a bow?
So that's an interesting question. I don't think I've ever been asked that. That's a good one. So the biggest thing is going to be clothes that are suited for the environment you're hunting. And that doesn't mean going and spending, $1,500 for a jacket from Sitka. You can go to Walmart or your local department store and you can buy yourself some clothes that'll do just fine. I am a guy that recommends camouflage. I think it has a purpose and there's a reason behind it, but I'm not pattern specific. So, go to Walmart and pick you up a $30 coat and some $30 pants just to get some camouflage going. I think the one thing that's kind of more, it's not pricey overall, but for that item is socks. A really, really good pair of merino wool socks, or a couple of them that are like $25, $30 socks, are going to make your experience in the woods a million times better. Buy some really, really good socks. Depending on the style of hunting you're doing, like for you guys that are walking around or Western guys, boots, a good pair of boots makes all the difference in the world. If you're a tree stand guy or you're hunting in the Midwest where you're not doing as much hiking, go out and buy you a pair of $30 cheap rubber boots because you're wanting to keep scent down. You have less mobility to get around an animal with scent stuff, so you utilize some rubber boots to keep your scent down. Probably a cheap backpack, that way you can keep all your stuff together. And that's really it. You don't have to have any of that stuff, really. I mean, you can go out in blue jeans and a plaid coat. I mean, you can go out in blue jeans and a brown coat.
Yeah,
you don't have to have any of those things. Those are just kind of quality of life things that are going to make your world a little bit better.
Yeah, that's it. Whether it's comfort or, warmth or, just general camouflage, you can, I've shot goats wearing bright pink shorts and singlets, it's
yep.
barefoot shorts and singlet, it just depends on, whether the wind's in your favor, all of those things. But yeah, that's some good ones. I don't think on that question we've had too many people answer clothes and stuff like that. Usually it's binoculars. Socks are a good one. That's one that hasn't been touched on a whole heap. So that's good. I get a lot of newer guys coming into hunting listening to this podcast. So I try and cover a bit of everything for everyone. So guys that are just getting in, they, because it's a daunting thing if they don't know people that hunt. They're seeing all these guys, like you were saying, with the top of the line gear. They're spending thousands of dollars on bows or rifles. They're spending thousands of dollars on camouflage. They're spending $1,000 on boots.
Yep.
It can be quite daunting for someone getting into it. So
yeah, binos that's a good one I didn't think about, but the style of hunting I do, I didn't actually start carrying binoculars with me consistently until probably 5 years ago.
Yeah. That's one of my biggest things is glass, because without it, you're not seeing too much. You know, it increases
Sure.
your odds, especially over here, spot and stalk hunting. It's something that's really, really needed.
Yeah, if you can't find the animal, you can't hunt it.
Exactly. Bit of a fun, silly one. Zombie apocalypse weapon. What are you going?
Okay, so I've thought about this a lot, and I'm conflicted for a couple reasons. Being the archery guy that I am, I really want to say recurve bow, because a recurve bow has the ability, I can go cut a stick off a tree and make arrows for a recurve bow. Like, the ammo options are endless, and depending on what point you have on the front, you've got a ton of options for like food procurement or defense or anything like that. And it's quiet. So in a zombie apocalypse scenario, zombies aren't your only concern. There's going to be groups of other people. Not all of them are going to be friendly. Being able to hunt, procure food, defend yourself if necessary in a quiet nature where it's harder to find you is pretty freaking significant.
100%.
With that said, I also lean towards a single shot 12 gauge shotgun. And the reason I say single shot is because with a good single shot 12 gauge, you can also treat it like a muzzle loader. So again, you're opening up a lot of ammo abilities. Every country across the planet utilizes a 12 gauge shotgun. It's not like rifle calibers.
Yep.
And then, slugs are great for longer range, whether it's food procurement or it's defensive purposes, and then bird shot for smaller game or defensive purposes, or, there's a lot of ammo options as well that you can shoot that you can make use of in different scenarios as long as you're aware of capabilities. So those are where I lean, and in a perfect world, I'll have both.
That's a good answer. That's for sure. It's definitely different to, most people go to the semi-automatics, edged weapon, crossbow, Daryl Dixon style. So
yeah.
It's good to hear something a little bit different, AA-12, some people, big drum magazines. So hearing someone say, a single shot 12 gauge is definitely different.
So I kind of approach it from a different scenario, I think. Like, I'm not going to be the guy that's out mowing down zombies. I want to be the guy that survives. And when you're putting yourself in danger, you don't be that guy for very long.
Yeah.
I would much rather be the guy that stays low key, make sure that I'm fed, like the people that I'm with are taken care of, and just ride it out and build over time, be smart about things. Like I said, it's something I've thought about probably way too much.
Yes, don't worry. So have I. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. If it ever hits off, we were so close with COVID.
Me too.
We were so close with COVID, and I was so upset that we didn't get zombies out of it.
Yeah, every time there's a new something somewhere on the planet, I'm like, zombies? It never is zombies. It's awful.
It's like back in the day with the bath salts when that guy ate the other guy's face off, and they put multiple rounds in him to stop him. I'm like, come on, I'm in school. I'm like, yes, it's starting. It's starting.
Yeah.
But,
good old Florida.
So not much luck, unfortunately. Speaking of other funny things, what have you forgotten on a hunting trip?
The number one thing I think everybody forgets, and probably the typical answer, is release. The worst thing for me, though, is not a release. I don't do it anymore, but I used to practice with my compound bow with fingers so I could still hunt if I forgot my release. And now I carry an extra release in my pack separate from my normal one.
I do that too.
The worst thing in the world to forget is toilet paper or wet wipes or a shovel to dig the hole. Like, those are the worst things. Those are the worst things in the world, because when you gotta go, you gotta go. And sometimes I'm not near a bathroom. So that's the worst thing in the world for me.
Yeah.
Or snacks.
Yep, snacks are a big one, but yeah, toilet paper is definitely a big one. That's something I make sure I have in my pack all the time, because there's been a few hunts there where, you're coming back with one sock.
Yeah, and that's not socks. The socks I wear are too expensive, first off. And second off, it's not any fun walking with one sock on, one sock off.
It isn't. So, yeah, you learn pretty quick to take toilet paper. So, going from that, would that be the most important thing you take out when you're out hunting, or what would be the most important thing you take with you?
No, I think probably honestly my most important thing is my cell phone. And that's not even from like a something to do in the stand perspective. It's from a safety perspective. I'm fortunate where I hunt. I've got pretty decent cell service. So, and I hunt solo a lot. Even when I go with buddies, we kind of all go our separate ways. So being able to have contact with the outside world if something bad were to happen is invaluable.
Yeah.
If I didn't have cell service, I would say GPS and something that has the ability to text or to call emergency services or, safety is number one.
Are you an iPhone guy or an Android guy?
Android.
So iPhones have just released. I just covered this on the last episode I just done. iPhones have released almost like an emergency beacon setting. So if you've got satellites, you can access that. So you don't need phone signal to operate that, which is quite handy for people. Carry your phone.
So,
and you've got an emergency beacon with you nowadays.
That's awesome. Android does similar, except it's just a case of like when you have no service, you can call emergency services and they utilize satellites to get that done. Here's the thing though, that emergency beacon and being able to hit a button and turn it on is great because what happens if you fall and pass out? Like for me, I'm climbing in a tree. If I fall 15 feet and I hit my head and it's the last thing I can do with the little bit of consciousness I have is hit that button, that's huge.
Yeah.
Hitting that call button, I'm not going to be able to interact with whoever's on the other end of that phone.
Just 1 second, mate. Sorry. All right. Sorry about that. Beauty of having kids.
No, you're good.
Just woken up. Must have had a bad dream or something. Where were we up to? I think we were going off of our most important thing. You were talking about tree stand hunting and if you fell off and lost consciousness.
Emergency devices. Yeah, emergency devices, man. Just, I was talking about with Android, it's a call versus just a beacon. And I'm sure they could probably trace the call, but how much longer does that take?
Yeah,
exactly. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm guessing it's longer than just that beacon.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you lose consciousness, that's another big thing about it. Talking about, danger, what's the most dangerous or sketchy thing that's happened while you've been out hunting?
There's 3 stories that really stick out. The first one was my very first time hunting public land. And it pushed me away from public land for a long time. But this is right when I first started hunting. I went out to some local public land, and as I'm walking in on this, it's a main trail that walks back into the woods. I mean, it's right off the parking lot. I hear a metallic clang, and I happen to look up, and there's a guy in his tree stand that has drawn his bow back on me.
Yeah, wow.
It is dark outside still, to the point where you can't, the reason I saw him is because I turned and looked up and turned on my headlamp.
Oh, wow.
So I was very upset. I'm yelling and screaming and cussing at the guy, and I'm 200 yards from the parking lot, which I'm sure just made everybody else happy. The guy is you can tell visibly he's freaking out. I leave. I turn around and walked out. When I walked out, there was a game and fish officer out there, and he's like, "Who is yelling?" That was me. I explained everything that happened. Off he went down the trail after the guy. I don't know the end of that story, but that kept me from hunting public land for a lot of years. Probably the first 7 years I hunted private, and I wouldn't touch public after that. And then the next one actually didn't happen to me. It happened to a buddy of mine. We were moving tree stands from one tree to the other, and the particular tree we were in, we had set up on the bank of an old dried creek. So we were 6 foot up plus another probably 22 foot up in this tree. And it was dark, and he's taking down stands so we can move them, and he pulls the strap for the stand he's on, and it fell out from under him.
Yeah, wow.
He grabbed the seat, but he's dangling, 28 foot up in the air, basically, and I have no way to help him. I'm on the ground, bringing stuff down as he's passing it down to me, so I just stuck my arms out like, I'm going to catch you. I'm not going to catch a 200-pound guy falling 28 foot. It's just not going to happen. So, fortunately, in that aspect, and after the situation, it kind of clicked. But he was wearing a tree stand harness. But in the moment, like, I'm just seeing my buddy dangling from a tree. You know, it doesn't click that like he's with all intents and purposes safe. But I climb back up the tree and help him like get around and do that. And then the third thing was, there's the public land that I hunt the most. There's a log that I like to cross to get to the other side of a creek that most people won't get to kind of get me away from the competition. And I went out there after a heavy rain one time, and I had crossed this log, 100 times, never thought about it. And it's probably a 7-foot fall down into the creek. The creek's probably 3 or 4 foot deep. It's not like crazy, but I stepped on the log, and about halfway across, I slipped and fell in the water. It's the fall itself didn't feel great, but I wouldn't consider that dangerous. The dangerous part was being soaked head to toe, and it's 37 degrees outside. So the cold aspect, and I mean, I climbed out of the creek, and it took me a while to really decide whether or not I go back to my truck and go home or hunt. And I ended up going home, and it's probably the right decision. But the fall there, not necessarily dangerous. Although when you have, metal tree stand steps and stuff like that on your back, it's hard telling what could happen. It's just the cold aspect is probably the more dangerous thing there. And to me, that's the least of all the three. The first one is probably my scariest experience.
Yeah, that would definitely freak the hell out of you, that's for sure. What about lightening it up a bit? What's the funniest thing that's happened to you while you've been out hunting?
Probably, probably on public land, especially when I first started, I didn't walk that far back, so I was always dealing with other people. Going and getting up in my climber up above a guy, and then he comes fumbling in just before daybreak. He stops and decides to pee on my tree. Like he is literally taking a piss underneath me. And I'm kind of minding my own business, and he finishes up. And I look down, I'm like, just so you know, I marked that tree first. I thought that dude was going to shit his pants. And I mean, that's super common, man. If you get above the line of eyesight for people, most people don't look up. But just watching him jump out of his skin, and he's standing there, and he's breathing heavy and stuff like that. And, I'm laughing, but I'm apologizing. And that's probably the most funny thing. Either that or going hunting with one of my buddies, and he comes out of the woods, and his pants, like the right leg of his pants, are now shorts, but the left leg is still long. I'm like, what in the world? So I didn't have any toilet paper. I was like, use a sock. I didn't think of that. So he cut a pant leg off his pants.
Yeah, I've had mates that have done that as well. It's hilarious. What about top 5 dream animals? If you unlimited money anywhere in the world, where would you go? What would you hunt?
Number one dream animal for me has always been Yukon moose. Yep. And that goes back to a TV show I watched forever ago where a moose charged a guy and knocked him over. And then he shot it like when it knocked him over. But just the adrenaline of an animal that size being that close got me hooked. I want to do that. Number 2, New Zealand red stag. I think a lot of it is because the country is beautiful. I mean, New Zealand is a special, special place.
It is.
On video, I can't imagine in person. So that's
pretty badass.
That's my number. Yeah, you would know. My number 3 is probably a water buffalo or something, something along those lines. I'm kind of really fond of danger, like the exciting adventure aspect of going after something that is a legitimately dangerous animal. I mean, moose, people don't give moose enough credit, dude, but moose is the only Western animal that really scares me.
Yeah.
Grizzly bears don't bother me. Not nearly as much as a moose.
If you want true danger, skip the water buffalo, because they tend to be like, they false charge quite a bit. It's scrub bulls is what you want. Is the wild cattle, the wild bulls. They're the true dangerous ones up in the top end of Australia.
Yeah, so that would be totally up my alley. I didn't even know that was a thing. I know Hawaii has wild cows that are dangerous as hell,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize you guys had that there. So, and that's the other end of these hunts too, right? I want to travel to new places and see wild things.
Yeah.
Because hippo is probably my number 4, and that's a very
That
dangerous
is.
animal, responsible for more deaths than any other animal in Africa
Yeah.
every year. They are territorial, they are mean, but again, it's a wild area. And then my 5th is probably like a chamois or something. Some species, I don't really have a specific, but some species of mountain goat where it's a really tough hunt in a really remote area. And I mean, sheep, like a Dall sheep or something could fit in there too. Just again for the adventure aspect, and there's the danger aspect of the terrain at that point.
Yeah, chamois, Himalayan tar, they're all New Zealand. You'll be able to cross a few of them off. It's an insane place over there, and you'll get your dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, no joke. That place is, man, like I said, it's special on a TV show or in pictures. I can't imagine in person.
Oh, it's breathtaking. It's insane. It's breathtaking in more ways than one because you're constantly struggling for breath while you're walking up those hills. I know I was. What about favorite thing to cook with wild meat?
As far as like a recipe, or as far as just like side dishes, or
what's your go-to favorite thing to cook when you shoot something?
Okay, so I'm pretty purist when it comes to meat in general. Like for a beef steak, I'm just a salt and pepper guy. So for me, like a backstrap cut up and just grilled is perfect. Like to me, that is the end all be all. I don't need a fancy recipe. I don't need like a backstrap that's cut good and thick and grilled to the perfect level of doneness with just some like a baked potato and some green beans. Just a very simple, very straightforward, because I truly enjoy the meat.
Yeah.
But also, like I shot a wild hog a few years back. I did pulled pork with that. It's fantastic. With my bear, I took it to a buddy of mine who's a fantastic chef, and he did a chili rub on the backstrap with a huckleberry reduction glaze, and like he fancied it up, and it was unbelievable. So I like a lot of things. I mean, I like food in general, but
don't we all?
But for wild game, man, I'm a purist. Like I'm just as happy with a cut of backstrap, or just a cut of steak off a ham, or keep it simple. Yeah. I like the simplicity. And I mean, game, I guess it differs too. Waterfowl, I like making tacos. Pheasants, I like to make pheasant soup, like chicken and noodle soup, but with pheasant. Dove and quail, I like to wrap those in bacon with jalapeno. So I mean, it differs a little bit, but as far as big game goes, man, I really want to taste just the meat.
Yeah.
First off, to see if it's something I want to continue to pursue, but I like the pure, straight up simplistic aspect.
Yeah, man, that's one of the best ways about it at times. Just a little bit of salt just to enhance that flavor, and yeah, it's definitely a great way to have it. How do you see the public views on hunting and hunters?
You told me about this before we started the podcast. I'm excited about this because I'm curious about what it is for you guys there, because for here, it's very, very interesting. Everybody, like, obviously you're going to surround yourself with people that are like-minded. So for me, everybody that I talk to for the most part is a hunter or pro hunting, or at least doesn't have a problem with it. So the perspective that I get personally from the people around me is it's great and everybody loves it and they think it's a good thing. I, however, know that that's not the case, and that most of our major metropolitan areas are primarily filled with people that either A, don't have an opinion, or B, are very anti-hunting because they think it's murder.
Yeah.
The public perception is, I would say, probably net neutral, just because of the amount of pro hunters versus anti-hunters. And there's more antis than pros. I know that for a fact. There's more anti-hunters than there are pro hunters, but I think there's a lot of neutral that don't really care or could be persuaded one way or the other. That's why I think it's very important the way it's portrayed on TV, on social media, on any platform where eyes can be seen, in pictures. It needs to be portrayed in a positive light, and we need to be educating about why it's important. Because if we aren't, those people that are in that neutral ground are going to go the opposite direction. And the last thing we need is more anti-hunters.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, over here, hunting isn't a massive thing, especially around our cities and that. Hunting's constantly under threat. Everything we hunt here is an introduced species, so our government's plan, we don't have management plans, we have eradication plans. So, in my state at the moment, we're battling with heliculling. So they're going around like the pigs in Texas, but they're doing it with deer and goats and everything. They're shooting 600-700 deer at a time when they go out, with shotguns out of the helicopter. People are finding wounded ones and, all this nasty stuff that we won't go into now. All the all the normal listeners will be like, yeah, I know what Zach's on about here. So yeah, we're constantly battling as hunters because, majority of Australians aren't hunters or have no interest in hunting or don't want animals to be killed yet. The government's going to do it anyway, either way. But when you break it down to the food aspect sides and you actually have a conversation with someone, majority of the times they're for the pro-food side of things, which is always good. But, if I took a microphone into the city of Adelaide, where I am here, it'd probably be 7 out of 10 people anti-hunting, if I just pick randoms off the street, So it's pretty hard over here because we're constantly battling those things. We've got no public land hunting here for those reasons. Only on, they're trying to ban bow hunting at the moment in South Australia. We've been battling that for the last, two-ish years now. So
yeah, that's insanity to me. I mean, the one thing I will say that's super nice is because we have government programs that are like hunting is part of management for us in every state. There are some states that are stupid and via pressure from anti-hunters are like canceling certain seasons. New Jersey is a prime example. They canceled their black bear season for 2 years. It's another one, man. New Jersey canceled their black bear season for 2 years, and then a lady and her child were mauled to death by a black bear in their backyard. And then it was like, oh, we should probably do something about managing this. And that's the thing. That's the thing that upsets me about like the heli hunting, or we have even sharpshooters here. Like our state will hire sharpshooters to go into a park that's not hunted and kill off a bunch of deer because the population needs eradicated. In my mind, it makes more sense to do a limited draw where people pay to enter. And it's non-refundable, $20. If you get drawn, you get to go out and you have to shoot animals. If you don't get drawn, then better luck next year. But that $20 is money back into conservation. It makes sense. I live in probably the greediest state in the United States because we're so broke and politicians like to steal. It doesn't make sense to me that they're not going to do something to make money.
Yeah,
like that doesn't logic to me. We have a park. I have a park 8 miles from my house. The deer population is ridiculous. It's getting to the point where deer look sickly in the summer because there's too much. There's too much going on. The more dense the population, the higher problem you have with transmission of diseases and things like that. And I guarantee they'll hire sharpshooters to go into that park and kill those deer before they'll do just a bow hunting, limited quota draw to send people in there and shoot them. Which is ridiculous.
It's the same here. People would pay to shoot these animals on public land and be able to utilize these animals for their meat. Yet we're paying $70,000 plus every time a helicopter goes up to shoot. Anywhere from 100 deer or 700 deer, whatever. There's rumors that they fudged the numbers. But it's they could make money and have people removing these animals rather than spending taxpayers' money.
So do they leave those animals for dead?
Yep. Leave them for dead. Let them rot. builds up the introduced fox species, like the fox numbers, builds up the feral cat numbers, builds up in the areas where we have wild dogs, it builds up their numbers. So
that's what pisses me off about it more than anything, because sharpshooters here, they gather up the deer, but they just get dumped in a landfill.
Yep.
So they go to waste. And part of that is because there are certain circumstances where they poison the deer first, and when that doesn't take out the numbers, then they send in the sharpshooters.
Yeah, we poison them here too. They're having big issues in Victoria.
And what kills me is you'll get people that are anti-hunting because it's cruel, but they don't say a word about them poisoning animals or chasing them around with helicopters, putting them under an immense amount of stress, and then killing them.
Yeah, yeah, it's ridiculous, and it makes most hunters over here pretty upset.
Same here. Yeah, I mean,
and the wastage, the meat wastage. You know, we've got no wanton waste laws here, so it's, you know, if you want to hunt and, you know, you're pest controlling for a farmer, you're going out and spotlighting deer, and, you know, people let them rot. I don't tend to, you know, unless it's like a sickly deer, but
right.
I try and use everything I can that you can eat. You know, you're not going to eat a fox, or you're not going to eat a feral cat, or those types of things. But yeah, it's pretty sad, you know, especially when Adelaide's got a decent homeless population. You know, you could take these deer and feed the homeless or whatnot, you know, struggling families.
Yep. That's the overarching frustrating thing for me. And it sounds like it's very similar to you, is exactly what you just said. You know, we have like the United States is not without their homeless, without their struggling people. That is a lot of free protein going to waste that you could take and donate to a shelter. You could donate to whatever to get them processed and feed a lot of people that really need it. And instead, you're going to let the animal rot.
That's it.
And it's inhumane to hunt them.
Yeah, we got pretty tough country to, you know, if they're shooting them in the scrubby, like thick bush, you're going to have a hard time to retrieve these animals anyway. So there is reasons why they can't, because it's pretty dense bush, you know. But it is also a shame as well. But moving on to a little bit of a lighter note, how would you change the public views on hunters and hunting?
Oh, I mean, as a hunter, I wish everybody loved it and thought it was great. You know, I mean, if a hunter says anything besides that, they're out of their mind. There is this little concerted push right now in the United States to depopularize hunting, though. There's a sect of guys that specifically want no public viewership of hunting. They want, like, social media guys like me, they want us all gone because they want it all for them. Bingo. He's kind of leading that charge, but it's because they don't want the competition. It's because they want it all for themselves. And my response to that is, first off, you're an idiot. If you think hunting is going to survive, if you want it just for yourself, you're out of your damn mind. That's the mentality of one of two people. One, somebody that's completely out of touch with reality, and I mean completely. Or two, somebody that is a rich person that has all their own land to hunt, and they don't really care if there's public access or not.
Yeah, that's it. It's, you know, we have a few of those types here in Australia. You know, hunting's better, you know, not seen and not heard about, just done in the background, you know, and those people don't fight, you know, they don't talk that they're hunters, you know, they just do it quietly, and, you know, they don't get involved in anything that's going on. So
that's frustrating to me, because again, if you think it's going to last, here's the thing that people don't seem to like conceptualize. If hunting goes away, then your private land hunting goes away also. It's not just public land. You need people, you need hunter recruitment, you need good education. You know, I wish, like you asked, I wish the perception would change to be completely positive. And I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility to get most people to have a positive view on hunting. I think we just really need to focus on education and why we do things. I've also learned that there are a lot of reasons why people hunt. If we can tap into all of those specific reasons, you can attract a lot of new people. You know, some people do it for the family tradition aspect. I have friends that they only hunt when they're going out with their family, or their favorite hunt every year is when, all their brothers and their dad get together. I have friends that are interested in hunting because they like the nutritional value of the wild meat and understand that it's the healthiest way you're going to eat. I have friends like me that are really, we're in it for the adventure. Like, we love the adventure. We love the seeing the new things. The meat is fine. Providing for the family is awesome, but that's where they're at. And then there's guys that are providing for their family, and that's what it's all about. So if we can, I think those are not hunting things, they're human things. And I think if we can tap into those human traits and educate based on those human traits, we can grow hunting. We can help protect it further.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. So what is hunting to you?
That's a big question. Hunting is everything to me, really. It's the number one passion. It's what I think about when I wake up, when I go to bed. It's how I make my living. It's the one thing I attribute to really saving my life in a time when I was going through a lot of personal hell and turmoil and had no idea how to fix it. Hunting is the reason for a lot of frustrations, along with all of those great things I just covered. It is how I make a living. So if I'm having a slow month, frustrating, and it's stressful. Even down to like a hunt where I botch it and miss on a great animal, or don't get an opportunity on the great animal, that is frustrating and heartbreaking. It might be the most painful thing I've ever experienced. Yeah. Some say it's worse than childbirth, but I can't confirm nor deny. But hunting is, for me, hunting and bow hunting specifically it's everything. It is the one thing that is all encompassing in my life that I will never give up under any circumstances. If tomorrow it became illegal, I would become an outlaw.
I'm the exact same here, man. I've got about 9 bows behind me. I'm in the exact same boat.
Yeah. I couldn't do what I do if I didn't love it so much. I went from working a pretty solid job, making pretty decent money. And I quit that to work 3 times as hard for 1/10 of the money. And I still get up and do it every day. I don't take days off. I'm a 7-day a week, 10 plus hours a day, every single day, nonstop. If I didn't love it as much as I do, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. No, it's definitely great to hear someone with your passion, and we've been trying to tee this up for a while, so I'm super glad to finally get you on and make our times work. So
yeah, man, it's let's see. I was going to catch you one morning coming home from a mountain archery fest event and ended up having to run home fast and missed you. And then the time difference is just tough. And then it's like when I have a free weekend, you've got stuff going on. When you have a free weekend, so this is a long time coming.
Yeah, because I think first of all it was my hog deer hunting trip in Victoria, and then New Zealand, and then recently Thailand, and it's just been absolutely spastic year.
Yeah, but those are always the most fun. I did more traveling this year than I've done, and I can't tell you how long. 20,000 miles. I drove 20,000 miles in the last 4 months.
Insane.
So it just keeps me on my toes, and it's all part of what I do for a living and my job. And kind of another thing to touch on about like what is hunting to me, and it's not so much what it is, but I'm really passionate about the education aspect as well. Yeah. You said you have a lot of new hunters that watch this show, and I have a deep appreciation for that because a lot of my content is tailored to education. For new hunters, I try to do a lot of stuff where I explain things, especially on TikTok. It's such a good platform to interact. So if I get a question, I can pop up a video and explain it. But also just the broadhead reviews. The reason I'm doing reviews on products in general is because if I can review it and you don't have to waste your money on it, I win. Yeah. That's the way I view things. Money is not something that everybody has readily available. It's not easy to come by. I still have people that are like, man, I can't afford a $30 pack of broadheads. What do you recommend? Like, I recommend you send me your address because I'll send you some broadheads. Because there's not a whole lot on the market that's good for less than $30. But it's education is something I'm super passionate about also, just in all aspects.
Yeah, same. I'm learning a lot doing this podcast, chatting to every guest. I learn something different, which is absolutely awesome. And I get some great feedback from listeners. People that just start listening or they've been listening the whole time. It's been bloody awesome. But jumping back to a little bit, the hog deer hunt that I went on this year, the hog deer ballot just went live. It is Sunday the 6th right now, so we're probably 2 weeks away from this episode airing. If you're interested in hunting hog deer in Victoria, the ballot's open to worldwide, so jump on, enter the ballot. It's $25 Australian, so maybe it's probably like 15 American. If it's pretty much one of the only wild populations in the world that you can hunt of these hog deers. So it's something for you to check out. If you draw it, you fly over to Australia and you get to hunt Australia for the hardest deer to hunt in Australia. If there's any American listeners, any of your fans out here listening, go check it out. Go get yourself a ticket, and it would be an adventure of a lifetime if you draw.
Something I've always wanted to do is come over and chase fox and feral cats with my bow.
Yep. So I got a feral cat right there. That's a beer koozie made from a feral cat, and I got a hat hanging up above me. That's made from a feral cat.
Real quick on feral cats. When I first saw a picture of a guy holding a cat, I was like, "What in the hell?" We have a feral cat population here, but not like you guys have.
There's a good chance that photo was me. I went viral a few years back for shooting feral cats with the bow, and I got a lot of hate from it from the States. I had people like Ted Nugent jump out and support me, and all sorts of people. So there's a good chance that that photo that you're seeing was me.
It's very possible. But at first I was like, what in the hell? So I did some research. Your guys' feral cat population is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they are killing everything.
But you guys are having the same issues over there, but you're just not able to deal with it like we do. You just have to shush and do it, sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I always thought, I'm like, that's such a different animal to like go over and chase. And same with fox. I watched a video a while ago from guys calling in foxes on the back of a truck and shooting them with their bow. I'm like, yep, that looks like a freaking blast. So that's always something I've wanted to do on top of all the other big game species over there that I, of course, want to chase. And
yeah, we've got camels you can hunt. We've got donkeys. We've got wild horses. We've got wild cattle, pigs, goats, cats, dogs, you name it.
Yeah, it's a bow hunter's playground, really.
It is. So it'd be definitely a shame if it gets banned over here. But I really appreciate you coming on. If people have enjoyed what they've heard tonight, where can they find you on social media? What platforms and what do they need to type in to find you?
So TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, with the first three being my main platforms. I'm not a giant Facebook fan, but I am on there if you want to message me. It's Chest Thumper Outdoors everywhere. I kept that the same. Also, you can email me at chestthamperoutdoors@gmail.com. Or you can text me at 217-378-0092. I'll answer any of those as quickly as I possibly can. I'm super busy this time of year, particularly. For your Australian listeners, I do ship to Australia. There are some shipping charges involved with that. Normally, I free ship everything in the lower 48. But I would do my best to make sure I keep the shipping charges as low as possible.
Yeah.
So I've sent some stuff over there in the past, and
it's a bitch with the shipping prices from the States, and that's the big killer for most things. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, go over. So you got a website for people to check out?
My website is thectoutdoors.com. So if you're an Aussie listener and you want to order some stuff or talk to me about stuff and order, your best bet's probably to get a hold of me on socials or through texting or email that way. Because I don't have my website set up for international shipping because honestly it was a pain in the ass and I didn't want to put the time in. So
I can understand why.
Yeah. But if
where'd the name Chest Thumper Outdoors come from?
I get that question a lot, and I wish I had like a really cool story. But it's kind of dumb. When I was 16, I was like, man, I need something different and something that'll make me stand out. And I thought, when I get really super hyped up on something, I have this tendency to like beat my chest and like really celebrate. And so the chest thump there, and then also your heart pounding in a high adrenaline scenario hunting, and then also the sound of an arrow hitting the chest of an animal. Yep. So it's kind of the culmination of all those things. But it was mostly like, how do I get when I'm super excited? And like, if I'm super pumped, like I'll beat my chest and I'll freaking hoop and holler. And that's kind of where it came from. I wish I had a better, cooler story, but that's what happened.
That's good, man. That's good. That's good. Yeah, well, anyway, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast and getting up early. It's Sunday morning there. I'm sure you've got pre-hunting scouting to do or whatnot.
Arrows to build. Arrows to build. I've got about 4 dozen arrows I need to get on. That's my biggest hate about archery is building arrows. Really? Oh, I build a lot as part of my business. I'll be probably close to 150 dozen this year. That's insane. But you do it for the passion. Yeah, well, and it's gotten to the point like I totally kind of want to hire somebody to just build arrows for me because first off, it's overwhelming, but yeah, it does get a little old. Oh, I bet. But at least you can listen to podcasts while you're cruising or TikToking, jump on TikTok live. But yep, anyway, man, I appreciate you coming on. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope you have a successful hunting season that's coming up. You're what, 2 months away? Right around 2 months away. Yep, awesome. Well, good luck, and I really appreciate you coming on, man. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Hunting Connection Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our discussions and gained valuable insights into the world of hunting, fishing, and the outdoors. To stay connected with us and never miss out on an update, please be sure to follow us on social media, all at Hunting Connection Podcast. We appreciate your support and would love for you to share the podcast with your friends and family. Don't forget to tag us in your hunting photos on social media and let us know about your experiences. Your feedback is invaluable to us, so please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Together, we continue growing and delivering more captivating episodes for all hunting enthusiasts. Stay connected, stay informed, and keep pursuing your passion for the hunt. Until next time, happy hunting.